Thanks for joining us for another episode of the EmpowerLA Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Shears from the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. So, you know that feeling when you've been away for a little while, but then come back to some place where everybody knows your name? Well, that's what it's been like recently for today's guest, Lisette Covarrubias, the new neighborhood liaison for the Department of City Planning. After working for almost a decade with the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, Lisette is back working with the people of Los Angeles as a friendly neighborhood face at City Planning. As someone who was born, raised, and still lives in LA, Lisette knows the city well, and in our conversation, she offers a wealth of knowledge about the planning process, the role the neighborhood councils play in it, and the future of our city. I hope you enjoy the interview. Lisette, thanks so much for joining us on the EmpowerLA Podcast. It's really great to have you here. I feel like you're already part of the team. How you feeling? How you doing?
Thank you so much for having me, for inviting me. I'm actually really excited. I'm a little nervous, but I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, great. Well, before we jump into all that stuff about, how you're really a member of the team, tell me a little bit about who you are, where you're from, where you grew up, how you got to this point in your career.
Okay. So I was born and raised in Los Angeles, 40 years, been in the city. My parents bought a home in 1979 and they still live there. So we were raised in the West Adams area. So West Adams Neighborhood Council, shout out.
Mm-hmm.
Can I do shout outs?
Yeah, home neighborhood council shout out.
Home neighborhood council.
We're here to promote all neighborhood councils, but if you have, one that's a little special.
Yeah. And that's totally it. So I'm again, born and raised. My sister says we're unicorns because nowadays anyone who's actually born and raised in Los Angeles and lives in Los Angeles is so unique.
Yeah,
because most folks, come from other places. So,
and you talk about them owning their home for almost 40 years now.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yes, I was 2 when they bought their home. So, and they're still there.
Wow.
They're still OGs there. I actually left to go to school for 4 years. Came back. And then
where'd you go to school?
Berkeley.
Okay.
I went up north and really.
I think I'm obligated, by the way, to say go Bears because I went to Berkeley. But
go Bears.
I don't have that same inclination. What? Tom, I interviewed Tom Sung. He was just like,
go Bruins,
and all that. I'm just like, go ahead, Tom. Yeah, do whatever you got to do.
Why would you not say go Bears?
Something about anti-charge. I have nothing against them, or not. I love them.
Yeah.
It's just that I don't have that that provincial impulse to be like, go.
Anytime I see a bear, like a golden bear, I don't, I usually I'm crossing the street. Oh yeah, I'm like, go Bears, and people were like, yeah.
And then the bear looks at you stink-eyed and is like, what are you talking about?
No, I mean, it's cool. So anywho, so I came back, right? And I went to school to UCLA for a master's degree in urban planning and Latin American studies. And that led me to a bunch of other opportunities in terms of more closely to work with the immigrant community in Los Angeles, right? So I did a lot of work with women and children victims of domestic violence and sort of that route to citizenship.
So working with nonprofits,
Mexican consulate. So we did all that. And then I decided that I really needed more stability, and I applied about 11 years ago to the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment.
Wow.
I saw sort of this, I don't know, I guess it was an ad or a publication notice or whatever, and I was like, what is this?
Did the internet exist at this point?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
Yes, this was back in 2005.
Internet was around.
And
so you didn't see the ad. Did you?
It was some random, I don't even know, I just stumbled upon it. To be quite honest with you, I went onto the City of LA website looking for jobs, and I was like, what department is this? You empower people to do what? So the community organizer in me was all riled up, right? I need to be part of this movement. And so the planner in me was also somewhat okay, this will be cool because you get to work with neighborhood councils on quality of life issues, right? And planning is huge for that. And so my personal vision was to actually work with these neighborhood councils on planning matters. So, I was with Department of Neighborhood Empowerment / EmpowerLA for 9 years. And then I was like, I really need to go back to planning, because it was really tugging at me, like with all the social justice issues going on around planning. I really wanted to be part of the department in terms of like the growth that it was experiencing. So applied and got the job, and a few months ago folks got wind of my experience with neighborhood councils and were like, do you want to join the external affairs team? Oh, I should say that I'm the neighborhood liaison with the Department of City Planning. Did you say that?
So that I did not. I will say that
okay,
at the beginning, and it's horrible that we all do this out of order, but that will happen.
Okay, I'm so
we are
sorry.
like talking. Time isn't a linear thing, because
Yeah.
at some point I'm going to be saying something that happened before this, and it's going to be amazing.
Okay.
But anyway, so yes, you are the neighborhood liaison,
Yes.
Department of City Planning.
Yes.
So that's really where you're at now. We talked about your path there. 11 years ago, you started with the city through the
Yes.
Department of Neighborhood Empowerment here at EmpowerLA. Your position was, what did you?
I
what
was
did you do there?
I was actually a project coordinator and then became a neighborhood empowerment analyst.
Uh-huh.
And so what we did is similar to what you do. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's exactly what you do.
Yeah.
So one is obviously supporting the neighborhood council system, right? It's growth, ensuring that neighborhood councils have a direct link to the city, and also ensuring that they have training,
Right.
from like how to run a meeting to, how to write a community impact statement. And while I actually worked with every region except the Valley while I was
Really?
here. Yeah, every region.
I mean, that probably speaks to the kind of, chaos at the time with the budget and cutbacks.
It was
and
really
things like that.
chaotic. It was
Yeah.
super chaotic. And so, but the sort of the biggest experience that I had was with South Los Angeles,
Mhm.
which is near and dear to my heart because I still live in South Los Angeles. And also the northeast and east side of the city. So Boyle Heights, El Sereno, Arroyo Seco.
Mhm.
So that was more of like my experience where it was at. But yeah, I worked with every other neighborhood
And
council.
had you heard of the neighborhood councils at all? Like, maybe not the department, but have you heard of neighborhood councils before?
Prior?
You started?
No. So when the charter was amended in 1999, I was actually still in Berkeley.
Oh, wow.
So I had
Interesting
no
timing.
idea that this was going on. Again, when I got back, I did not know of the existence. It wasn't again until I came upon this like job position that I was like, whoa, what is going on? So I was like, yes, sign me up.
Who are these people and what are they doing?
What do you mean empowering communities? What?
So, with regard to that, you worked with these neighborhood councils. What was your experience? What did you see in them? What did you learn about this system? How would you characterize that experience? How would you describe it?
So I saw a lot of passion, which was absolutely, it was just awesome. It was inspirational, to see literally grassroots movements of folks just coming together to improve the quality of life of their communities was amazing. I mean, when they got stuff done, it was like, oh my gosh, this is really possible. I worked with neighborhood councils that were on the brinks of like exhaustive efforts and turned it around and now are like flourishing, right? So, I mean, that was an experience that I will forever take with me because you are literally working with any stakeholder. There were also very challenging moments, I do have to say, where you either have to deliver really bad news or when the vision of the department is not in sync with the vision of the individual neighborhood council, right? And so there's this clash of where you're kind of stuck in the middle because you definitely want to see the neighborhood council prosper and grow, but at the same time you have to stay true to what your mission is and what your work entails. And so there was that push and pull as well, and you're not going to be everyone's favorite person. I learned that very quickly, and so I think it also, in many ways, working with the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment and working with neighborhood councils really did prepare me for life. I mean, because you do experience any type of personality out there.
Right.
So you really do have to like, whoa, like, how do I deal with this? I cannot tell you how much that experience has prepared me for the role that I'm in now. Like, it has completely given me a leg up.
Yeah.
To be quite honest with you.
Well, so let's talk about that. So you now serve as the neighborhood liaison for the Department of City Planning. So
Yep.
Is this a new role? Is this
So
a
it's
new position?
it's a new position. I do want to definitely give kudos to the folks that actually had some of the roles and functions.
Right.
So previously to like the neighborhood liaison as a position, there were other folks within the Department of City Planning that took on different functions of it, right? On top of whatever else they had to do.
Right.
So the functions have been there, but I think with the creation of the External Affairs Unit, and public information officers, we have now a city council liaison. It was common sense to have a neighborhood liaison, right? To have someone that can be that direct link between the city and community. And so I take that quite seriously because I understand how important it is for stakeholders, residents, anyone to be able to get someone on the phone or even an email back to say, hey, I hear you, right? I am a person. And so it's sort of, I guess it's a new position, but the roles were somehow divided up.
Sure,
so
yeah.
now it's all been centralized.
That's the case for many departments.
And
right?
I think, that really does speak to where our management is now in the Department of City Planning, right? They see the value and they see the importance of having a unit that is out there, right? That is sort of like, hey, we're here. We want to work with you. We're here for you.
And who are the main people you interact with? Is it neighborhood council people? Is it other people in the city?
It can be. You know what? It's that's a really interesting question because on a day-to-day basis, it's everyone. So on a day-to-day basis, I actually interact with all members of the community. When it comes to meetings, like outreach meetings, it's sort of two ways. So I go to most of all the neighborhood council alliance meetings. So because there's only one of me and there's 97 neighborhood councils and 4 million people in the city of Los Angeles, I can't, it's almost physically impossible to attend every meeting. And so we want to be as strategic as possible, ensuring that we reach out to community leaders. And so most of these community leaders are part of neighborhood council regional alliances, right? And so I get there, I present the information, whatever it may be, in hopes that these folks will take them back to each of their neighborhood councils, and that spreads it. We've also, you're aware of the Planning 101 trainings that we had, and so those really did help us in this broader sort of outreach that we did. And all of a sudden you have students from USC, UCLA, Long Beach, commissioners, city council offices outside of Los Angeles, like Long Beach, giving us a call and, hey, can we be part of this?
Oh, wow.
And so now they're part of this greater email listserv that, we're able then to reach out to folks outside of the neighborhood council system, which is absolutely amazing because in some ways they also learn about the neighborhood council system, right? They come in and they're like, hey, what neighborhood council are you with? Oh, I'm from such and such. And so, there's some sort of connection there.
All right. So, well, you're talking a lot about the people you're interacting with. Why is city planning so important to neighborhood councils?
The quick answer is it's a quality of life issue. And part of the mission of neighborhood councils is to improve the quality of life for their communities. So planning is absolutely integrated into that fabric, right? If you're addressing economic development within your community, if you're addressing open space, if you're addressing land use, we, meaning the Department of City Planning, is at the forefront of that. And so it is that important because neighborhood councils are needed for several reasons. One is to be the voice of their community. If there's a restaurant coming in with, wanting to apply for an alcohol, right, for an entitlement to sell alcohol, what does the neighborhood council think? Mm-hmm. If there's a housing development coming in, what is it that the neighborhood council would like to see, or how is this project being vetted? And quite honestly, they are also really important because they can provide that outreach as well, right? So, for example, if I'm going to a regional alliance meeting or if I'm doing a training, I depend on neighborhood councils to ensure that the word gets out. Send this out to your networks. Like, your communities better than anyone else. And so I believe that's why planning is so important. It really, it's a quality of life issue.
Yeah. So, that's the case for neighborhood councils to really care about planning.
Right.
Maybe for the people who don't quite realize that. I think most of them do. Most
right.
of them
yeah.
realize. But, for maybe the people who are new to it or don't quite understand their role in it, well, how would you explain to those people what is the role of the neighborhood councils in the planning process? We know it's advisory, but,
Right.
you have influence, you have,
So ultimately, you're right. Neighborhood councils are advisory body agencies to the city. And the city is composed of several departments, and they are advisory bodies to all departments, as well as city council offices, the mayor's office, right? So for those folks who aren't really, or who are new maybe to the neighborhood council world or want to know about it, if there's a project, so let me take a step back. Not all projects go through the Department of City Planning. I'm going to get a little technical right now. If there's a by right project per se, meaning that the project is within the limits of what it's zoned for, it's usually dealt with by the Department of Building and Safety, right? So let me just put that aside. I just want to make sure so that folks understand that the Department of City Planning does not address every single project coming in, okay? However, if there is some sort of entitlement or relief that the applicant is seeking, at that point, it will definitely entail an additional review by the Department of City Planning. All entitlements or, any relief that the applicant is requesting requires a process, an application process, right? So they submit an application, we review it. But along with the department's review, there is a component of a community review, and that is done through the neighborhood council, right? And not to say that not obviously anyone, absolutely anyone, and folks should, I do want to stress this as much as possible, folks should definitely pay attention to hearing notices that you get about projects and review those projects, and definitely review them and submit your comments, right? Anyone can do this. Like, you don't need to be part of a neighborhood council, but for neighborhood council specifically, they actually receive a hard copy of the packet, of the application packet that's being submitted with the most important documents. And we highly, strongly encourage neighborhood councils to address these issues at a meeting. And depending on what their process is, because a lot of them have land use committees, right? And so maybe it goes through the land use committee first, and then it goes to the general board. Community members have an opportunity to voice their concerns, right? So if, for example, as a community member, I don't have a direct link to the Department of City Planning, which is me now, Lisette Covarrubias, so you can always call me. But if you don't feel comfortable doing it that way, you can always go to your neighborhood council and say, hey, I saw this on the agenda, I'd like to comment on it.
Right.
And so that's sort of how we get public participation process. And then, of course, there's other projects that we work on at the Department of City Planning, like general plan update, community plan updates. Those are more informal, obviously, because it's not a rigid, strict application process, right? These are more like, hey, we're coming to your community. We'd like to hear back from you. Please attend. And so at that point, that also provides community members, including neighborhood councils, the opportunity to voice concerns, comments, or give us kudos. You never know.
Well, like what you're saying, the neighborhood council is an integral part of the planning process because they provide that forum for
Exactly.
people. Like it's one department, one neighborhood liaison. You can't be everywhere at every time. So how do you have community input at these various processes? Well, when you're talking about a specific event, an entitlement or something, the neighborhood councils are integral in that process, right?
Yes, that is a great summary. Yes, that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
So, let's speak a little candidly. How are they doing? How are neighborhood councils doing in that regard? How are they doing at providing that forum? How are they doing at giving input and providing space and ideas for planning in the city?
So you know what? I think it's reflective of how I think it's reflective of the neighborhood council spectrum as a whole, right? There's 97 neighborhood councils, and they're all unique in their operations, and they're all unique in their functionality. And so 97 neighborhood councils are not alike, right? Some folks do great at outreach, but they need some improvement maybe in, meeting operations. Some may be great in terms of community impact statements, but may need improvement in other areas. And so I think it's the same for planning, right? I go to regional alliance meetings where I almost feel like, what's that show where everyone knows your name?
Cheers?
Cheers,
yes.
Right? Where I just walk in and everyone's like, hey, high-fiving me and like, woohoo! So there's this like back and forth, right? There's like, okay, Lisette, we're holding you accountable, right, for these things.
They know you.
Right,
exactly. They can find you.
They can find me, and so it's like, okay, we definitely want you to present on these things. Give it to us. Like, what do you need? And then there's others where it's like, we have no idea. Like, or wait, we didn't know this was happening. How do we, do this? And so I think it's all a matter of just improving the operations, right? I think when a neighborhood council is possibly hurting internally, meaning that they have some operational issues, that's definitely going to spill over into other things. So we may not hear from certain neighborhood councils for various reasons, right? And that's not to say like, oh, you don't care, or, how are you not aware? Well, no, there's other issues going on that they have to address first. And then, this will happen. So I again, it's a range. I can't say, and I'm not going to say like, oh, it's horrible. Because quite honestly, neighborhood councils do their best to represent as best they can. Just like I'm trying to do my best as the neighborhood liaison for 4 million people. And so, it's difficult sometimes.
So when you think about the mission of neighborhood council system, we talk about more citizen engagement, more responsive city services. Do you think the neighborhood councils are achieving their goals?
Oh, wow. That was an easier question for me when I was working at Dunn. I think they're working towards it. I mean, I don't think it's and I don't think it's they've done it or they haven't. I think they're still on that journey.
Right.
And with every year that passes, I do have to say that they have definitely, they're going through growing pains, and it's absolutely inspirational sometimes of how much the system has grown, and just sort of the enthusiasm that's going, with that, and just how people within the neighborhood council system have actually gone on to bigger and better things, right?
Sure.
So I think in that sense, it's fulfilling its mission. I will also tell you that for the Department of City Planning, neighborhood councils are integral to our process. And so to even be able to say that is also another huge accomplishment, right? Because their mission is to, again, improve the quality of, more increase civic engagement, improve quality of life. And so I think with that alone, I'm not saying that, oh yeah, they're 100%, but it's like, yes, there's a journey and they're getting to that because departments are listening. They want to know what they have to say. And so that's a huge accomplishment in itself.
So I'm going to rephrase this question. I was going to ask, how can they improve? But really, how do they stay on this track? How do they continue and escalate and make all these things more realized?
I think for sure, just having what would be helpful, or not even helpful, but more cohesive. And I'm not saying as a system, but even within their own neighborhood councils or regions, right? Mm-hmm. In the needs of that community, because sometimes there's I want this, well, I want that, well, well, if everything's a priority, mm-hmm. nothing is a priority.
Exactly.
So what is your priority? It's really, sometimes it's having this come to Jesus internal reflection of this is a neighborhood council that we are, this is a community that we represent. What are our top 3 goals? Is it housing? Is it homelessness? Is it dare I say cannabis? Is it transit-oriented communities? What is it, what are your top 3 goals, and how do we best utilize our resources to accomplish something? So even with having the top goals or the priorities, Brett, also strategically putting something together to achieve that.
Yeah.
So I know what my neighborhood council needs. I know what my community needs, but then how do I communicate that? Is it a ranting we want and we're not gonna? Or is it more of wait a minute, I know so-and-so at this department, I know so-and-so at this department, I know so-and-so at this department. How do we bring all those resources together and get somewhere?
Right. So I know you're still early in your tenure.
Yes.
As a neighborhood liaison.
Yes.
But what do you think, what's been going well? What do you think has been working in so far in what you've been doing?
What's been going well, I think, is and I have to I'm thinking of the best way to say this, but I think what's been going well is sort of the stamina of being able to go out in the community and being able to connect with folks, because again, I don't have all the answers, right? I don't even try to say that I have all the answers, but folks have been very welcoming to me and have been able to express their frustrations and concerns in a way that, I take back. Sometimes we get things accomplished and sometimes we don't. But I think it's that connection that's been going well. And of course, to say that I used to work for Dunn or with Dunn. And so for a lot of folks, it's a familiar face of you're back, so I don't have to reintroduce. So yeah, it's definitely that community connection. I'm truly amazed by the residents of Los Angeles. Every day I'm like, whoa, I can't believe they got this done. But, yeah, I mean, and other things will come. I mean, I've only been in the position, May, June, July, August, September, 5 months. So, well, I'll check back in with you.
She was counting on her fingers.
I was counting on my fingers as I was like, I don't even think I've been here 6 months. Yeah.
So, that's great. Going well, making that connection seems like that's a really important first step. What do you think on top of that, making more connections, is somewhere where you can improve this position, where you can make the neighborhoods, the connections even better?
I think what could improve, and I'm only speaking for my position, the communication. I would love, and one of my goals is to somehow streamline, and this is for myself too, I'm thinking selfishly, to streamline communication with neighborhood councils and, just communities at large, residents of Los Angeles, this is coming down the pike, guys.
Yeah.
Ordinance, community plan out. That way I'm not like, oh, by the way, here, I would love to have something tangible, right? For folks to be able to like pinpoint, oh, that's an important meeting that I have to go to with enough time, right? Because neighborhood councils meet once a month.
Right.
And it's like, Lisette, we just had a meeting last night and I'm getting this today,
That's such a good impression of everyone. Because
it's usually like, right. So I, that for me is more, and then also, engagement. I would really, I think, appreciate, and so would communities throughout Los Angeles appreciate a process where we all feel truly engaged, like where I feel satisfied that folks are, being included, and where folks really feel like I was heard. I was heard today. If nothing else, I was heard.
Yeah.
So I think that is where, that's what I would love to improve on.
That's great. What's one thing about the neighborhood council systems and the community at large that you want people to understand about this, about city planning, the work you do, and
that we're here for them? That we ultimately, actually, you know what? I do, so that we're here for them. But let me further explain that the Department of City Planning is truly a department that works really hard. That, it's a visionary department where we are literally planning for the future, right? These plans are for the future growth of the city of Los Angeles. And so I completely understand the frustration of members when it's like going at snail pace, where it's like, when is this happening? Mm-hmm. You said that, but again, because the department has so many factors to consider, we want to ensure that, things are done appropriately. And so sometimes when we make mistakes, it's not to say we don't care, but it's more because it's human error, right? And so sometimes we get so involved in what we're doing that we may not get everything. We may miss something.
Lots of moving parts.
Some moving parts, exactly. And so I would want folks to know that, the Department of City Planning is definitely working for the improvement of the quality of life of 97 neighborhood councils, hundreds of HOAs, 35 community plans, 1 general plan, and all kinds of ordinances. And so while frustrating for folks in terms of like how long the process takes, for us, it's something that we definitely do because we're here to serve the city of Los Angeles.
So we are the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment.
Yep.
And I'm asking all the guests, what does empowerment mean to you? You can answer personally in the context of your role. What does it mean? What does empowerment mean?
I guess it's I'm thinking about it sort of on all levels. Like, what would empowerment mean personally, professionally, as a neighborhood liaison? There's a component of ownership to that, maybe. Like, I feel the onus to make my community better, make my relationship better, be a better mother. So you have these tools and skill sets that give you the strength, the power, right, to push the needle, to make change. And folks do it in LA every single day. I mean, from the street vendor, who obviously feels empowered enough to push that fruit cart, to the neighborhood council person who gets up and speaks up about certain issues, to everyday teachers, folks here. I mean, we're all empowered to serve our city. So on that note, did you have any final thoughts? I'll leave this open-ended. I know you have a couple plugs. I won't let you leave without plugging those.
Okay. Department of City Planning is getting very active. For everyone who doesn't know,
you talked about external, affairs, external relations, but it's a lot more than that. But
Yeah. So yes, I actually let me plug here our social media platform. We are now on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, and our handle is at Planning for LA. We're also on YouTube. And just final thoughts is, again, I just want to remind folks, I'm here to work with you all, to be a resource more than anything, to be a link. I don't know every single answer to every single question that you may have, but I will definitely, we can work together. We can empower each other, right? To make it happen. And so, yeah, feel free to give me a call, shoot me an email.
Lisette, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much,
Appreciate
Brett.
you taking the time. Of course, I'll see you around.
Absolutely. I'll be around.
Thanks, Lisette.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the EmpowerLA Podcast. As always, you can learn more about the Neighborhood Council System at empowerla.org, where you can find information about the Planning 101s and other ways we're using neighborhood councils to build a better city. You can also check out our show notes for the episode if you want to learn a bit more about the topics and people we discussed. The EmpowerLA Podcast is available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube for all your listening needs. If you're so inclined, please leave us a review or a comment because we definitely want your feedback. Thank you so much for your support.